Jovan Buha! Buha!
Yo, I'm Jovan Buha, Lakers beat writer for The Athletic, and welcome to episode 47 of Buha's Block. On today's episode, I am thrilled to be joined by Lakers wing Max Christie. Max, I see you are in your childhood room right now. You're back in Arlington Heights after a couple of weeks in Vegas for Summer League. How you doing, man? How's your summer been?
I'm doing good. Well, first off, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. I'm doing good, though. I'm doing good. Summer's been going really well. I was just in Vegas watching Cam compete with the Clippers for Summer League. And then, I've just been getting my work in Vegas out here. So, I've been all over the place, but it's been fun. It's been a good summer.
So I want to start with your contract because I think that's the most exciting thing for Laker fans is you re-signed a 4-year, $32 million deal, and a new wrinkle within the new CBA is that teams can start negotiating with their own free agents earlier than normal. So how did that process go down with the Lakers, and why was it you guys came to an agreement before free agency technically started? Why was it important for you to agree to terms and not even hit restricted free agency? And just how did that process go down?
It was cool. I mean, that was my first time ever experiencing any sort of free agency, kind of thing. Obviously, as a kid growing up, and then my first 2 years, I'm obviously seeing some teammates and then a lot of guys that go through it, and I never knew how it really worked. And then this summer was my first time really actually going through it, and it was fun. It was good. Sort of the back and forth negotiations. It was pretty mutual, between it was really me and Coach Redick and Rob. So we were all, trying to get on the same page really, because I wanted to be a Laker. I wanted to come back and be a part of. I think we have a really good team, and so I wanted to be a part of that. And it was cool. I mean, we wanted to get it done before free agency started, just to get rid of all that turmoil and stuff. So I'm glad we reached an agreement, right before it started. So we knocked all that out, and now we're good to go.
And then I want to take a step backwards and go back a little bit. How did you view your sophomore season and some of the ups and downs with it? And I think about your exit interview, and it was like a 45-second exit interview. And I felt like in a way it was almost poetic, like kind of encapsulation of your season, where you were talking about like wanting to play more and how disappointed you were that you weren't able to contribute more in that series. And then LeBron was coming up next, so obviously it's LeBron, but like I felt like we saw the flashes with you, and I think about like the Cleveland game. I want to say that was in November, and the New York game, and like we've seen these flashes from you. So how did you view your sophomore season kind of overall?
Yeah, I think I guess if you want to look at the numbers, I think I had a pretty good season overall. I think I improved my 3-point percentage. And then if you look at the 2 years combined, I think overall, from a number standpoint, it was solid. Yeah, you could say, I didn't play as much as I would have liked. I didn't play as much as I thought I could have. But, at the end of the day, that's out of my control. And I've harped on this for the past 2 years. You've heard me say it so many times. But I thought I did a really good job all year long of just controlling what I could control, which was, my attitude, my work ethic, being a great teammate. And then even when I did get out there, just trying to, play as hard as I can and help the team. And I think when I did get opportunities to play, I played really well for the most part. Like you said, early game in Cleveland in November, and then in New York. And, I just thought I stacked a lot of good games together when I was able to play. And so that's all I can control, really. I did a lot of work behind the scenes. I wanted to do a lot of extra work. I still try to help out the team, even from trying to ask to be on the scout team to get as many reps as I can instead of kind of just sitting and watching. I was just trying to do everything I could just to kind of get reps, right? And so overall, I think it was a really good season for me. It was a huge growth season for me, hit a lot of adversity in terms of, not playing and whatnot. But still, I think I got better, even though I wasn't getting, a lot of live game minutes. And so to me, that's a successful season.
You mentioned the conversations with you and Rob and Coach Redick, having a coaching change like a week or so before you're about to hit free agency, that could be a little rattling, right? Like it could go one of two ways, where maybe he has a different vision for the roster or the rotation, but clearly it seemed like you guys came to an agreement, and he has based on the contract that you signed, like you are now making rotation player money. So it feels like JJ has they've talked about you and Austin and Rui, like those have been three of the names that publicly and privately have come up a lot in terms of like the young core and the foundation of this roster. So what can you share about your conversations with JJ, either leading into free agency or since then, and just sort of the vision that he has for you for next season?
Yeah, well, I think both of us are really on, the same schedule, if you will, in terms of how, I want to be used and how he wants to use me within the offense, within the rotation. And, we really both got a taste of it in Vegas when we were both there. And I was working out a lot. He was always present. He was always kind of running the drills and kind of putting me in situations that he wants me to be in during the season too. And, I think everybody knows, especially on offense, we got a bunch of guys that can put the ball in the basket with, LeBron and AD and Austin and D'Angelo. We got a bunch of guys that can score, handle the ball. We got Gabe off the bench. So we got a lot of guys. And for me, and I think we're on the same page with this, just being that guy that can kind of take the load off of them, and especially, obviously, with my shooting ability, space the floor. And I think the good thing with JJ, too, is especially this is kind of how he played when he was in his career. There's going to be a lot of movement. I think a lot of free-flowing movement in our offense with cuts and pin downs and, all sorts of stuff. So that's what I've been working on here at home, and especially with, with the coaches in Vegas and then even in California, too. Just a lot of that off-ball movement, catching and shooting, playing off of closeouts, stuff that I really have done my first 2 years and then kind of expanding on it a little bit more. So I think we're on the same page with that stuff, and I think we're all in agreement that I'm going to be a good part of the offense and defense and the rotation just in general. So I'm looking forward to that.
This is a simple question, but what are you looking for on closeouts? Like, what are the reads? What's kind of the order of operations when someone's kicking you out the ball?
Well, the first thing is obviously shoot the ball. I mean, if the guy's closing out, he's too far away, his hands down, whatnot. Especially with my ability to shoot three, it's get the ball up and shoot it. If it's a more athletic, defender and they're closing out, they're really close to me, or I feel like they can get a good contest, they can block it or whatnot. Then it's kind of seeing where he's closing out from, my high side, my low side, and that'll give me an angle to drive. So if I'm in the corner, he's closing out and he's on my high side towards the middle, that's a rip baseline. And then after that, it's kind of just free flowing. It's just so much reps that I put in. And so that's just when you kind of, you let your body take over. I'm driving baseline. If I have a layup, I have a layup. If guys collapse, guys are going to be open on the perimeter. So it's all really free flowing. That's kind of the point you want to get to, is you put so many repetitions in that your body's just out there flowing. For me, and I think this happened my first 2 years too. And I noticed on film, every time I'm thinking, even if I look like I'm thinking, that's when you get slow, chunky mistakes, stuff like that. But for me, whenever I'm free flowing and the ball comes and I make my read naturally, I'm not thinking about, oh, he's close, now I got to drive. It's kind of just natural. That's when I'm at my best. And so that's what I've been continuing to work on too, is the mental part of the game and just making sure you're being free flowing. And so that's kind of the progression, if you will, of reads on closeouts.
And then one thing I've told you about, before we briefly talked about it last season, is one of the things that impresses me most with you defensively is your hands and how your hands are always up. And I feel like that's a fundamental thing that you don't always see with young players. And that's how you get deflections, or you just are ready to contest. And a lot of guys will have their hands down defensively or just shift them up when they're on the ball, but you are always, moving your arms and having your hands kind of ready to track the ball. Is that something that you developed as like a grade schooler, middle schooler, kind of coming up, or when did you really implement that into your defensive technique?
Yeah, I think especially at an early age, I was taught that just defensive fundamentals is just be in a stance and present yourself. It's really all presentation, in my opinion, how big you can present yourself on a closeout, when you're in the gaps, when you're on the ball, whatnot. And for me, I have a lot of length, and, my arms being out will really deter drives. And, if I'm in the gaps and if I'm guarding the defender, having a hand up will deter a shot. And so it started early, and then they harped on it a lot, or, the previous coaching staff harped on it a lot, for the past 2 seasons too, is just have your hands out. And this new coaching staff is the same way. And so for me, I think defense is mostly effort, but there's definitely a lot of technique with it, and hands and being in stance and kind of, catching drives. It's a lot of anticipation for sure. But, yeah, technique wise, hands, stance, all that stuff will help you, right? So I started at a young age with that, and I've just been harping on it. They've been harping on it with me, so I've just been continuing to grow that way.
And then how do you work on your defense in the offseason? Because obviously you can just grab a ball and go shoot, or work on your closeouts, and you don't even necessarily need a defender to kind of improve on some of those things. But how do you work on your defense?
Yeah, well, in Vegas, when I was with a lot of our coaches, we did a lot of defensive drills, especially to end the workout when you're the most tired. You know, it's hard, especially in this league. A lot of these guys, you know, when you're guarding the best player, all the actions are being ran for him. You're running through screens. So that's tiring. It's hard. And then especially if you're chasing shooters, you know, obviously Steph or Kevin Herter or Doug McDermott or Isaiah Joe, whoever, it's fatiguing. And so we always do it at the end. You know, we do this drill we did, it was a full court drill, picking up full court, and then it leads into more shooting and stuff like that. So it's really just kind of getting reps. You don't necessarily, you know, work on specific things all the time, but, you know, we did a lot of gap work, being in the gaps, working on closeouts, and then obviously moving your feet full court. That's something I want to try to do this season and kind of get comfortable with. That is, depending on the player, is picking up full court, trying to, you know, take some time off the shot clock, let them get another offense a little bit later, pressure the ball a little bit. So I want to keep growing my game, obviously defensively for sure too.
Looking ahead to next season, you just mentioned you think you guys have a good group. You like this group. You didn't really make any changes. The two swaps were you lost Torian Prince and Spencer Dinwiddie, and you added rookies Dalton Connect and Bronny James. But the way I've been talking about it and looking at it is you have Gabe and Vando healthy now entering the season, which were two critical pieces, or projected to be two critical pieces for last season. You're now in the rotation. And then Dalton Connect just looked really good in Summer League. So I almost look at that as like 4 additions into the rotation, even if 3 of those guys were already on the roster. So how are you looking at, I mean, you guys closed the season 22-10. That was a 56 win pace. Obviously didn't get the result you wanted in the Denver series, but it doesn't make it better, but it was a very competitive 5-game series where you guys had basically a couple game winning shots go against you. So how are you looking at like next season and where you guys slot in the West and just how competitive you can be?
Yeah, well, I think next season, again, if you kind of look at the blueprint with teams that have been winning recently, for the most part, a lot of the teams stick together for a while, right? They're not necessarily last minute. You could say the Celtics have been around for a while, that group, and they added Drew Holiday, which helped them a lot, but they've had that group for a few years now. You could say the same with the Timberwolves. They didn't win, but the run they had in the playoffs and throughout the season, that group's been together for a little while, right? And so I like the idea of us kind of running it back with the group that we had, because I thought we really got along well. I think we had good chemistry together, and I think we just need, you know, more experience with each other. And I think, you know, kind of going on a year, 2.5 years now, when we added D'Lo and those guys at the deadline, my rookie year, I think we're getting a lot more reps together. We're getting a lot more comfortable together. And like you said, we have, the 2 rookies with Dalton and Bronny. Gabe and Vando are both healthy, and then, you know, hopefully I'm looking to make an impact as well. So I think, you know, on paper especially, we're a really, really good team. Now we just got to put it into practice, and we just got to go out and show that, you know, what we're capable of. And we made the playoffs both years. We ran into a really good Denver team that gave us trouble both years. And like you said, the round one of, you know, the 5-game series was close. We were winning for basically the whole series, and we just kind of
let it like 70% of the series.
Yeah. So, you know, that's for us, we just got to finish those games, but we're right there, you know what I'm saying? And so I think I like the idea of us. We were right there. We're so close. We might as well just keep trying to build together. So I'm looking forward to the season. I think we can really do a good job. And the West is tough, but I think, you know, that'll help us.
Then to shift things to another team in the West, your brother, Cam Christie, got drafted by the Clippers of all teams at number 46. What was that moment like for you as a brother and having gone through this, and just your family overall?
Yeah, well, that week was a phenomenal week for the Christie family. I had signed my deal a couple of days later, and then he got drafted too. So it was really good for our family. With him being on the Clippers, that's arguably the best case scenario you could ever ask for. Especially as 2 brothers, you know, we're both playing in the same city, just for opposite teams. So it's really cool. And it's really cool for me as the older brother to kind of see him progress and kind of go through the things that I went through, and how he's building his own path. He's creating his own path in his own way. And it's cool. And so we're going to be together a lot this season, when we're both at home and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to watching him go through his career and his journey, his first 4 years that he signed for. And so it'll be good.
How would you compare and contrast your guys' games?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we're a little similar. I think he definitely lives in the mid range more than I do. I like the mid range, but that's his like bread and butter. That's his go to. I think for me, when it comes to offense, 3-point shooting is probably my my trademark, if you will. He loves shooting off the bounce, and I think for his first few years, he's going to have to adjust a bit. Being the rookie, you got to be able to, especially on a Clippers team, with James Harden and Kawhi, you got to be able to spot up. They're going to have most of the touches, but that's something he excelled at in college, excelled at in high school, and he could still shoot, score the ball from all three levels too. So he's a really skilled player. He's been around me for a while. We've all worked out together. So we've pushed each other, and we're both, pretty good players, and he's going to have a good career ahead of him.
Are you guys going to be living together?
That's the plan. Yeah. We're planning on trying to save some money on some horrific California rent.
So how does that work? Because you got the new contract. Are you guys splitting bills? Are you covering more of it, or how is that going to go down?
I'm probably going to cover more of it, but with that comes I get the master, I get everything. So he knows that. He knows that. So
okay, so he's on like rookie duties as the younger brother. He's
got to pay his dues. Yeah.
Got to leave the towels out and
yeah. He's going to have to do that too. Yeah.
And then I wanted to hit on a few rapid fire, although you could talk about them as long as you want. Questions, just non-basketball questions for you.
Yeah.
We always hear about how mature you are for your age. And that was a thing when the Lakers drafted you. And ever since that, anytime anyone from the organization talks about you, they're like, he's the most mature 19-year-old I've ever dealt with. 20-year-old. Now you're 21, obviously. But what's the most 21-year-old thing about you? Like what is the thing that, you feel like is maybe a little immature or childish or that would maybe surprise people?
That's a good question. I think I'm trying to think. The first thing that came to mind, this isn't even immature, but golf a lot. I just golf a ton. It's not even immature though. It's just something that takes up a ton of my time. I've started it this summer a lot and I've been playing a lot, but that's not even that bad. I don't go out. I don't really,
I would say golfing and not going out actually make you sound older.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. I stay up late a lot.
Okay.
So I don't know. That's something.
I'm
unless
a night owl
I
too.
Unless I have something in the morning, then I don't. But if I don't have something, I'll be up. Okay, I'll be up playing video games late. That's
okay.
Kind of immature, I guess.
There we go. That's good enough. I was going to ask you about golf. So I assume Austin is the best golfer on the team. Who's the second best golfer?
Austin's the best. If you consider JJ, on the team as a player / coach, he's probably the second best. And then it's probably between me and D'Lo. I haven't seen D'Lo play in a minute. He was better than me last time I saw him, but I've gotten a lot better too. We'll give it to him, and then I'll say I'm third. We'll say I'm third.
Okay. There's been a lot of talk about like shooting or good shooters being good at golf. Have you felt that correlation is just because of the repetition and the mechanics?
It's really, I think the two sports are so identical in terms of the mental game. I think obviously they're two different physical sports, but mentally they're so similar in terms of basketball or golf. Say you hit a horrible shot, you miss the green or whatever. And if you're thinking about that shot, walking up to your next shot, then the same results can happen. And I think it's similar with basketball. If I miss my first 2 or 3 shots and all I'm thinking about is how I missed my first 2 or 3 shots, I'm going to miss my next 2 or 3 shots, right? So it's all about moving to the next play, having a short-term memory. And I think it's super, super similar, to golf and basketball. I kind of use golf as, obviously it's a good way to get outside of basketball, outside the house with friends and nature, whatever. But for me, it's a lot of mental practice too. There's a lot of, especially when you're trying to get better, golf is super hard. It's super frustrating. You feel like you're progressing and then all of a sudden you can't hit the ball straight. You're just pissed off, walking up to the next ball and so on. And so it's huge mental practice for me. And I think, anybody that really plays golf and basketball at a professional level, or one of the two can kind of attest to that too.
And then I don't want to out you here, but you have a TikTok account and you post some anime content on there. I know you're big into anime. So first, if someone wants to start getting into anime, what would you recommend? And then second, why has that been the thing that you've wanted to post about or kind of share on TikTok?
Yeah. So that TikTok, I was just really bored. I was driving up to my lake house. It was a long drive. And I remember I saw a TikTok kind of like that. And I'm big on anime, so it's all over my feed. And it was just kind of like a post about, your favorites, your favorite character, favorite show, favorite, side cast, whatever. And I did it with me and my brother. I thought it was cool. Obviously, we're both in LA now. I thought it'd be a cool post. So I enjoyed doing that. But if you want to talk about first animes to get into, first thing I would say is kind of like any other TV show. If you want to get into something, you probably shouldn't watch a super long one to start because there's really long ones. The episodes are really short. It's about 20 minutes per episode, and they're long. Okay, so if I had to pick one for you guys to start off with, Demon Slayer is one that's still coming out right now. It actually just finished, and then they're coming out with some new movies that come out with it. So that's a good start. I think hopefully a lot of people know about like Dragon Ball Z and Naruto and all that stuff. I think that's kind of pretty popular, even if you don't watch it.
Yeah,
those are classics. I wouldn't recommend necessarily watching those to start because those are really long. However, those are definitely my favorites. Once you get a few in your belt and you decide you like it, you should definitely start that because those are classics for sure. You got to watch those.
I saw in an interview you did that you said you are the best COD player on the team. I know that's something that you walk in the locker room pregame and you'll hear you guys be talking about COD and playing video games. If you are the best COD player on the team, who is the second best player? And what's the group chat been like this summer, or if at all? And then just sort of like you guys continuing to kind of stay in touch through COD.
Yeah, we got a lot of guys that play video games and then Call of Duty. I know D'Lo plays a lot. Austin plays a lot. Those two are really good. Jackson plays a lot too. If I'm the best, I think D'Lo's really good. I haven't really played with Austin that much, but I mean, they're all really good, to be honest. We all get along really well, even when we do play. We don't play often, but on rare occasion we will play together. And it's fun. It's fun. It's a good way, obviously, off the court to stay connected and stuff like that. And so it's fun.
What's your style? Do you have a preference on like type of gun or just like are you super aggressive or okay?
I'm aggressive. Yeah, I'm aggressive. I don't like sitting back and waiting. I'm aggressive. Yeah.
Okay. And then last one would just be that you recently, or your brother posted a picture of you guys at Summer League. I don't know you seemed like 8 or 9 or 10, somewhere in that range, and you reposted it to your Instagram story. If you could go back and tell that kid a message or a piece of advice, what would you tell him?
That picture was when we actually went to Summer League as a family almost every other year. When we were younger, just kind of seeing. I think that year was, I don't remember who was the number one pick that year, but I remember we were both really young. I think I had to been like 7 or 8. Cam would have been 5 or 6, and it was a cool full circle moment for all of us seeing that picture. And we're gonna have to try and recreate that sometime next year or the year after. But if I had to give a message to my younger self, I think the first thing, the one thing I would say is, I think when I was younger, I tended to kind of not worry, but I was always like, I had doubts. I didn't know if I could do this. I always wanted to be an NBA player. I never thought I would be able to do it. I didn't know if it was possible. And so if I had to tell my younger self a message, I would probably just say, honestly, as simple as just keep going, keep putting one foot in front of the other. And luckily he did do that. But at the time, if I had to go back and tell him something, just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and just keep going. And then, the universe will kind of handle the rest.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I know Laker fans are going to love this interview. Anytime I post about a mailbag or anything, like I get a million Max Christie questions, and Laker Nation loves you. They're happy that you re-signed. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you having me. And I appreciate all of Laker Nation for sure. I'm very happy to be back.
Make sure to follow Max on Instagram and TikTok at M Christie Jr. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. For those on YouTube, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and like and comment on this video. And for those listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast platform of choice, please be sure to follow, download, and leave a 5-star review. I'll be back later in the week. I will talk to you then.